Jesus says how to vote. Welcome, everybody. I'm Jim McCotter. It's amazing how Jesus cuts through things to make them so simple and clear. Jesus tells us how we can know for sure what a candidate is really like and how we can know for sure how they will really rule once they are in office. You don't have to listen to any of their speeches. You don't have to listen to any of their interviews. You don't have to listen to any of their debates. You don't have to listen to any of what they say. Jesus said, all you need to know is this. Matthew 7, verse 15 through 16. Jesus said, quote, "Beware of the false prophets or false politicians who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits." End quote. Jesus said, you will know by their fruit, by their actions, by what they do, by what they've already done, by how they have already voted, by what policies they have already supported. Not by their speeches, not by their talk, not by their promises. The Bible says in Proverbs 14:15, only simpletons believe everything they hear. End quote. Only a fool votes based on what a candidate says. Jesus didn't tell you who to vote for, but he told you how to be smart, knowing for sure who you're really voting for. Don't listen to what a candidate says. Only know what they did or accomplished when in office. And I'm not writing here to tell you who to vote for either. I'm only saying how to be smart. Listen to Jesus. Now, you lived 4 years under the Trump administration, and now you've lived almost 4 years under the Biden-Harris administration. Which time was best? Which had better policy results? Internationally? On the border? Health? Education? Economy? Interest rates? Inflation? Crime? Etc. And if you're a Christian, you should know who was more or less biblical. Less biblical, don't vote for that person, no matter what either candidate may now say about themselves or each other. More biblical, vote for that person, not the one who sounds more biblical. Quote, the false prophets, politicians, who come to you in sheep's clothing, end quote, often look and sound more biblical, like sheep. That's what Jesus said. But if you really are not sure who was and therefore would be more or less biblical, and thereby who God would have you vote for, read what God himself mandated for his moral law and see who you think embraces it more. It was originally written in the Old Testament in the book of Deuteronomy, God's 10 Commandments, statutes, and judgments. And in the New Testament, Jesus also confirming it for today in Matthew 5:17 through 19, as well as the Apostle Paul, who summarizes some of it here in 1 Timothy 1:8 through 10. And I read, now we know that God's law is good when it is used lawfully. For God's law was not intended for people who do what is right. It is for people who are lawless and rebels, who are ungodly and sinful, who consider nothing sacred and defile what is holy, who strike their father or mother, or commit other murders. God's law is for people who are sexually immoral, or who practice homosexuality, or are slave traders, liars, promise breakers, or who do anything else that contradicts sound doctrine, end quote. Now, you don't need to waste your time any longer listening to either candidate, unless you want to see who lies in saying something different than what they have already proven for 4 years. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, and I quote, your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you say, end quote. In other words, what you've already done made so much noise I can't hear you. And no, I won't listen to all your words anymore when I've already had 4 years of living proof living under your leadership. What Jesus said is really the only thing that matters. You will know them by their fruits.